while he's out here canceling this debt, they're still making loans. We're canceling them on this end, and they're still making loans on the front end. How is that not a higher form of insanity?
And the university is the culprit. So that's who should take the burden, is the university, not the taxpayer.
I chose the cheapest option, a 4-year degree at a state school, and I still had to take out $40,000 in loans. We should forgive student loans because the right to an education and a good life after that education should not be reserved for the elite. What message do we want to send to America's youth? Dream big or dream within your family's financial means? I moved to Paris from NYC 3 years ago, and as fate would have it, shortly after moving here, I learned about the foreign earned income exclusion, which essentially makes my monthly payments $0, and soon discovered that living and working abroad exonerates me from paying back my student loans. In just over a decade, my loans will expire altogether.
When it comes to college grads saddled with student loan debt, some have gone to extreme measures, including skipping the country and living abroad in an attempt to escape their payments. Now, I think that we can all agree that's not the solution. But what is it? And I don't think we've finished defining the problem yet. I said I was going to talk about what was true insanity. And here's the thing that gets me. We've got the President of the United States, in my opinion, and I'm not really sure that it's even an opinion. I think factually, he's illegally just canceling this debt right and left, and it's just transferring it from one debtor to another. But here's the thing that I don't understand. While he's out here canceling this debt, they're still making loans. Yeah. We're canceling them on this end, and they're still making loans on the front end. How is that not a higher form of insanity?
I agree with you that it is illegal and unconstitutional. The power of the purse rests with Congress. So when Joe Biden is trying to wave his magic wand with $400 billion, poof, and say he has the executive authority, that is not in the Constitution, first of all.
But they're still making more loans. As soon as he cancels 90 billion of this, they're making 90 billion more.
Yeah. I agree. It's enabling the abuse. It's enabling the universities, and then the enabler is the federal loans. So I think one of the solutions is to actually tax the universities.
You've made such great, eloquent points, both of you all. But my question is, for example, federal student loan debt, that comes from, it is kind of like ghost money. Have you heard of that? There's like a ghost budget. When you can think about it in war. Post 9/11, you know that there's continuing, it did not create higher taxes, but we keep furnishing money for these wars. And it's kind of a similar thing.
That's because we're just printing it.
So here's the thing, but we don't feel the economic impact of the...
Yes, we do.
Well,
feel the inflation.
No, but this is what I'm saying. I'm just saying the ghost budget. I'm just saying the ghost budget is something that's happening. So the loans that we're trying to cancel is similar to that. That's all the argument that I'm making.
Here's where I think where the ghost. So inflation for education is about 5 times in the last 2 decades general inflation. So something's wrong here that education costs. And if you look at what are the universities spending this money on, this 5 times the general inflation, it's usually not for professors like you. It's actually going to bureaucrats, in some cases building massive facilities. It's actually not improving the educational attainment or outcome. So that's number one, cut the bloat. And then number 2, the cost of the education itself, that's where the phantom is. That's the ghost, is there is not actual more value being created. It's a false economic machine.
Right.
And the university is the culprit. So that's who should take the burden, is the university, not the taxpayer.
My other question would be the example of, for example, the PPP loan, right? And so you're given a PPP loan and it's forgiven. And so we didn't have a problem when there's bailouts in banks, or we don't have a problem during COVID because of emergency.
No. But the big difference with PPP is the reason we gave the PPP loans is because we put a gun to the head of the businesses and we said, you must shut down or you will go to jail. Whereas with student loans, no one put a gun to my head to say, hey, you need to take some loans out. Nobody
But
did that.
for economic advancement, you need to. For certain
For two-thirds of Americans, no. Most Americans say no.
We all
Most
have
Americans
merit.
don't
Shouldn't
take
we
that.
all deserve to have an education and to follow our dreams in
You
the
do.
American way?
It's a privilege to have an education. That's why we're all privileged to be Americans. My biggest issue with student loan forgiveness is that it's a lack of accountability for people's financially reckless decisions. Because you have these people,
Financially reckless.
they take out these wildly massive loans to get a degree, to put themselves in a career path that they know from the get-go is never going to feasibly be able to pay off this amount of money. Like, sir, with all due respect, I mean this so respectfully, you took out over $150,000 worth of loans to basically learn how to cook. And I'm supposed to pretend to be surprised that you can't now afford to pay off these loans?
You're actually bringing up a valid point, and it's not about just one. It's not about culinary or not. We have to take a break, and we're going to look at exactly what you're saying and what the university's role in that should be when we come back. Because I believe if you give somebody a degree and you know damn well it ain't going to pay off, you ought to be held accountable for that. And listen, this isn't a Democrat or Republican thing at all. This is not political. It's just common sense. And yeah, I said, we're not trying to win an argument here. I think all four agree that the universities have responsibility here. And one of the things that Xavier was articulating very well that I think is important is universities should have a role in this. Now, I've done just a little bit of research, and what I'm going to show you here, I'm not presenting for the specific to the penny fact. I'm using this as a hypothetical. What would happen if when you go to sign up, you require university disclosure and they say, okay, major degree return on investment projection. And they should know this, right? Because they've been in business for 30, 40, 50, 100 years. They've had this degree program forever. They can track what's going on. Now, I chose my profession, psychology, and one that's really a religion right now, environmental studies. They should probably put that into religious programming. So the cost of the degree, depending on whether you're in-state, out-of-state, private or whatever, can be anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000 plus dollars. So let's ask some questions of the university. What percentage get full-time employment on graduation for these two professions? And what we have found is only 40 to 60% are going to get full-time employment when they get out. And what percentage are going to have full-time employment at 5 years? That is really unknowable because they make so little money that these two professions with bachelor's degrees don't necessarily stay in their profession. The average degree salary is $40,000 to $50,000. Here's the problem. The cost of living to survive for a family of four, $68,499 after taxes. That's just basic survival. So when you look at this, you're going to spend 4 years of your life, take on a $900 a month payment for a degree that leaves you at least $20,000 in the hole. Would you do that? If the university said, you choose this and you work for 4 years, you get out, you're not going to be able to make a living.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to make a living. So, you want me to loan you $200,000 so you can get this? How many people would go, let me get back to you? Now, it would be different. There are some that pay off better.
If I could add to the conversation, so many classmates of mine couldn't even afford to stay in the field.
That's what I mean. At 5
Yes.
years, they're gone.
Yeah, just because we all went for this dream, we all followed what the school was selling, and then, reality hit when we got into our real world careers, earning $11, $12, $13 an hour, and we said we can't even survive with this degree that was promising us this really great future.
Well, we've got a group of high school students here today. Raise your hands, all you high school students. You guys should be asking questions. You guys should be saying, hey, when you talk to your counselors, you should be asking questions about student loans, about compound interest, about return on investment for something, because you may be going and say, I want a degree in art history or whatever. I'm not saying that if that's your passion, you shouldn't do it, but you should know what the return on investment might be. Now, overall, statistics tell us that a college degree versus a high school degree will yield about $1 million more throughout your life. It takes a while to get there, takes a while to get that, and that depends on which degree you get. But education does tend to pay off. But it can break you getting there if you don't make plans for it ahead of time. We just have a little bit of time left. Final thoughts, just a few seconds.
For me, I am eligible because I went into being a professor, public service loan forgiveness in 10 years, but I'm fighting for those that are behind me. Jesus forgave me. I think we should cancel it all.
And I do want to say real quickly, when you're talking about yours can be canceled, you're in public service, and there is a policy that when you serve in public service, then that's credited against your loan. That's like military service in public service. And that makes, and I support
That's
that.
what
That
we're
makes
trained.
sense.
We're not given education. We're trained to go to the military, and that's why I think education is not free, because we want people to get into the military. We also want people into the prison budget. Can we talk about the military and the prison budget?
Not a
How are
chance.
those connected?
Yeah.
Not a chance. We don't have time. Final
Where can we get
thoughts.
money? Where can
My final thoughts, any high schooler listening to this, please don't do what I did. I don't support the 10,000 student loan forgiveness that the president was really pushing. That is a Band-Aid on the problem. We need to look at the root of the problem, and it is allowing loan servicers to just shell out this money to anyone with a pulse. And at the high interest and compounding daily, I agree we have to hold colleges accountable.
All right, Xavier.
I want to build on top of what you just said. I think that's an excellent point. It is putting a Band-Aid on the greater issue, because student loan debt and student loan forgiveness is really just putting a Band-Aid on this vicious cycle, because every dollar that you make available for student loans, tuition goes up by 60 cents. And that 60 cents that it's going up, it's to indoctrinate people, it's to make them take classes that are irrelevant to their career paths, and it ultimately leads people to a situation that you're in and that you're in. I do think we need to start holding these universities accountable. They have, on average, over $1 billion worth of endowment, and we need to start looking at them and questioning why we're allowing them to become these corrupt, unbearable corporations.
Okay, final comment.
So yes, taxpayers should not be the villains in this scenario. The government should be pressuring the universities on both the tuition costs and also the outstanding loans.